Good afternoon, good day, good morning, whenever you're listening. I'm Pastor Phil Davenport of Wilmington Christian Center Church Worldwide. We're having our 31 days of kingdom wealth. Call somebody, tell them, God has called us not to struggle in our finances. And we're providing this daily devotional to build your faith. Today, we're talking about stewardship, managing God's resources wisely. God entrusts his children with resources, money, time, talents, and assignments, not to hoard, misuse, or fearfully cling to them, but to manage faithfully. How we handle what he gives reveals where our trust truly lies. Kingdom believers are called to be wise stewards, resisting the spirit of poverty that says, I have nothing to give. Look at 1 Corinthians 4:2. It says, moreover, it is required in stewards that one be found faithful. A steward is a manager of what belongs to God. Faithful stewardship requires faithfulness. Handle what God has given you with integrity, even in small things. There's a scripture in Luke 16:10 that says, he who is faithful in very little things is faithful also in much. And he who is dishonest and unjust in very little thing is dishonest and unjust also in much. A steward is a manager of what belongs to God. And we have to handle this with integrity. It's not my money, it's God's money. You notice when people you see a hearse, you never see a hearse with a bank vault or a bank following it, or a car following it with money. Because let me tell you, when you die, you don't take it with you. Glory be to God. These resources are what God has given us to use for his glory. So a steward is responsible for faithfulness. He or she is responsible for accountability. You got to recognize that all resources are God's. And one day we're going to give an account on how we use them. Then a steward has wisdom, always asking God for guidance instead of following worldly methods. In James 1:5, it says, if you lack any wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. He's yearning right now for you to ask him, how should I handle this check? How should I handle this insurance check? How should I handle this? How should I handle this little increase? How do I handle the money I do have? How do I handle my unemployment check? He'll show you those things, and he'll give you wisdom. Wisdom is knowing what to do when you don't know what to do. And our goal is not to lead to our own understanding concerning our finances. However, that spirit of poverty can deeply affect stewardship. When a believer believes there's never enough, fear takes over, and they may hoard resources instead of releasing them in obedience to God. They may refuse to sow or give, thinking it will jeopardize survival. They may even lean on themselves instead of trusting God to multiply what he always provides. See, faithful stewardship is impossible without freedom from this mindset. When Jesus died on the cross, when you became born again, the spirit of poverty was broken at that cross. It's part of it's part of your benefit package, that you don't have to be poor no more. You don't have to struggle no more. You have a new government, a way that God has for it. And getting our mindset in line, you understand, is meditating on scriptures like we're talking about here to fill your faith up so you can trust God in this kingdom government you belong to. God promises to supply seed for every sower. Look at 2 Corinthians 9:10. You understand? Look what it says here. And God, who supplies seed for the sower and bread to eat, will also supply you all the seed you need and will make it grow and produce a rich harvest from your generosity. The King James says that the way he grows, he multiplies the seed. God makes sure you have something to give. He's always got seed for you. No matter what you have, you'll have something to give. He knows the power of multiplication. Glory be to God. He's the one that established this covenant, this government. You understand? And sowing seed is very important. And so when you have that process, I know God is providing seed for me. And when it multiplies and I get my resources, maybe a promotion, maybe a raise, he'll show me how to be a good steward over every dollar that I receive. I remember Joseph in Egypt. If you read Genesis 41, he was entrusted with managing resources during a famine. His faith in God allowed him to plan, distribute, and multiply resources for the nation. God gave him wisdom on exactly what to do. Had he been guided by fear or a spirit of poverty, he would have hoarded or mismanaged, and God's blessing would have been hindered. But by the fact he allowed God to show him with a plan, and he affected a whole nation. I knew a young couple struggling to pay bills. They choose to manage their finances prayerfully. They were struggling, so they went to the Lord in prayer. They prioritized tithing, gave generously when they could, and sought God's wisdom for each decision. God multiplied their small resources. Unexpected bills were covered. Opportunities for extra income arose. Stewardship and faith unlocked provision. I mean, things, it seems like, I remember to hear the testimony, we're a year later and we're not 100% better, 100 times, they said 100% better than we were last year, and only through God. See, faithful stewardship requires freedom from the spirit of poverty. Believers must trust God's character and rely on him, not their fear or limited resources. You need to trust God's promises. If he makes a promise that he would do this, that he'll provide seed for the sower, and he's only saying, I'm looking for you to be faithful. And if you're faithful, I'll tell you, I'll just faithful over small things. Look where I'm going to take you. I can trust you with bigger things. Trust his promises. Obedience and trust unlocks multiplication, and it unlocks a blessing. Glory be to God. You need to take a hold of this. It's probably one of the biggest challenges we have, managing God's resources, and we should be doing it wisely. Glory be to God. Thank God the world has some ways that you can manage it and get a budget. But sometimes we need, as believers, we need to go to God and say, what is your budget plan for my life? What is your budget plan? Single mother with children. What is your budget plan? A senior citizen or golden single. Glory be to God. And you may be dealing with a government check or dealing with a pension check. What is it? See, it's not the money, it's your trust. And he wants everyone to be a good steward. We're going to be held accountable for it. Glory be to God. Let's make our confession of faith. After each one, we make a confession of faith. Glory be to God. Why don't you repeat this after me? I am a faithful steward of God's resources. I refuse the spirit of poverty, and I trust God to provide wisdom and multiply all I manage. I handle all that God entrusts to me with faith, joy, and integrity. Oh, glory be to God. We'll see you tomorrow. Remember, faithful stewardship flows from our heart, from fear, trust from fear. So let's trust God today and watch your resources multiply. God never fails. We'll see you tomorrow, the same time, same place. Love you. Have